Have you ever wondered just how far someone would be willing to go to reach the unknown? And what if I told you that, in 1931, a World War I submarine was modified to explore the Arctic with the ambitious goal of reaching the North Pole? It sounds impossible, right? But that's exactly what Sir Hubert Wilkins attempted. What no one expected was that beyond the extreme conditions of the Arctic, the Nautilus would face a series of mechanical failures, sabotage, and deadly dangers. The promises of glory, made by the media and sponsors, soon turned into a desperate fight for survival. So, what really happened to the Nautilus? Get ready to uncover the surprising details and hidden lessons in this epic journey. If you think this was just another failed adventure, you'll be amazed by what lies behind this story. Sir Hubert Wilkins' journey to the Arctic in 1931 was undoubtedly one of the boldest and most visionary undertakings of his time. Just imagine, exploring the unknown, crossing the frozen waters of the North Pole in a submarine modified for extreme conditions. It was more than just an adventure. It was an attempt to unravel the mysteries of a yet unexplored territory. And who, at some point in life, hasn't felt that spark of curiosity that drives you to challenge the impossible? Like Wilkins, we often face challenges that demand courage and meticulous planning. The difference is that while Wilkins had the Arctic ahead of him, you might be facing your own North Poles at work, in relationships, or in personal projects. But the essence is the same. It takes courage to step out of your comfort zone and explore the unknown. Now, the submarine Wilkins used, the famous Nautilus, was more than just a recycled war artifact. It represented the spirit of innovation and the ability to adapt in adverse situations. Adapting a World War I submarine to face the Arctic wasn't an easy task, but it was necessary. Isn't that the case in our own lives too? How many times do we have to take what we have at hand and turn it into something that can move us forward, even when the odds seem against us? That kind of resilience and innovation is something that can be applied to anyone today. If you're working on a project that requires creativity, think, what can you modify or adapt that's already available to you? Just as Wilkins did with the Nautilus. The expedition wasn't just a solitary adventure, though. Wilkins knew he needed financial backing to turn this grand vision into reality. And that's where the media came into play. By striking a deal with William Randolph Hearst, he secured not only the necessary funds, but also the attention of the entire world. Hearst, a media mogul, saw in this expedition an opportunity for exclusive news that would attract millions of readers. How often do we see this kind of strategy in the modern world, where innovative ideas need investors or captive audience to become real? If you have an ambitious project, it's worth considering. Who could also benefit from your success? Strategic partnerships, like Wilkins with Hearst, could be the key to making big ideas feasible. And here's the most fascinating part. Wilkins wasn't just in it for personal glory. He was on a larger mission, an almost philosophical quest for answers in the Arctic, a place so inhospitable and challenging that few had dared to explore it. He knew the path would be arduous, but he also knew that the learning and discoveries they would make along the way would be invaluable, both for him and for humanity. This is where purpose comes into play. No matter how challenging the path, when you have a clear and greater goal, even adversities seem to be part of something grand. And speaking of challenges, they would come even harder as the Nautilus faced the harsh realities of the Arctic. Modifying the Nautilus to face the Arctic was a Herculean task, full of technical challenges and uncertainties. Imagine trying to turn a submarine designed for war into a machine capable of withstanding freezing temperatures while traveling for long periods under the ice. The modifications included reinforcing the steel armor to withstand the crushing weight of the icy waters and installing ice drills to carve a path under the Arctic layers. But not everything that was adapted worked as expected. This is a practical lesson for anyone facing major projects. The solutions that seem perfect on paper don't always work in reality. This lesson applies to all of us. In life, it's inevitable that at some point, our plans will face unexpected obstacles. The important thing is not to give up at the first sign of difficulty. Wilkins, as visionary as he was, had to deal with a submarine that, deep down, was a big experiment. Many of the components he installed, like the navigation system and the ice drills, had never been tested in such extreme conditions. This reveals a universal truth. Real innovation comes with risk. And often, in seeking the new, we are forced to accept that not everything will work on the first try. What can you take from this? Perhaps, when facing a new challenge, whether at work or in personal life, you'll accept that initial failure is part of the path to success. Just like Wilkins, who had to rely on unproven technologies, we must also trust in our ability to solve problems as they arise. The modifications to the Nautilus were not just about engineering. They were about vision and persistence. Wilkins believed that he could explore the North Pole underwater, a feat no one had even attempted before. To do this, he had to think outside the box, creating solutions that many would consider madness. But that's where the magic of innovation comes in. It requires you to challenge the norms and try something that, at first glance, seems impossible. If you're currently working on something that seems like a distant dream, ask yourself, what can I modify or adapt that will take me one step closer to my goal? You don't need to have all the answers from the start, but it's essential to be willing to adjust the plan along the way. However, the modifications to the Nautilus brought their own problems. Although reinforced and equipped with innovative technology, the submarine also had many failures. Crucial systems malfunctioned, and the ice drills, for example, proved far less effective than Wilkins had hoped. This kind of frustration is common in any large project, but the secret lies in how you react to these challenges. When plans don't go as expected, the true strength lies in continuing, adjusting course, and trying again. Just as Wilkins and his team faced adversity in the Arctic, you too can confront daily obstacles with resilience and creativity, knowing that the next adjustment might be the key to success. Indeed, they would soon learn this the hard way, with mechanical failures directly impacting the expedition's progress. The partnership between Sir Hubert Wilkins and William Randolph Hearst was undoubtedly a masterstroke in terms of funding. The Arctic expedition required a significant amount of resources, and Hearst saw a unique opportunity to turn Wilkins' journey into a true media spectacle. In exchange for sponsoring the mission, Hearst would gain exclusive rights to cover the story, transforming the event into a worldwide sensation. This teaches us a valuable lesson. Major projects aren't sustained by vision and passion alone. Strategic support is necessary. And we're not just talking about money. Often, support comes in the form of partnerships that allow your idea to reach the right audience, just as Hearst ensured that the world was watching the Nautilus. Now, think for a moment. How many times have you seen something ordinary turn into a huge success due to a good marketing strategy? What happened with Wilkins is a clear example of how a great idea, when paired with a powerful narrative and the right backing, can conquer the world. Hearst, with his media savvy, knew that people would love to follow the ups and downs of an epic Arctic expedition, especially with the promise of exploring uncharted territories. It's the kind of opportunity that, with the right strategy, can propel a project to success. If you have a project you want to see grow, consider who, besides yourself, might benefit from it. There may be an opportunity to form a partnership or secure strategic funding that can take your idea to a new level. Wilkins, for his part, understood the power of media and knew that by partnering with Hearst, he was gaining more than just money for his expedition. He was gaining the support of one of the most influential figures in communication at the time. Hearst used his network of newspapers to turn the expedition into a daily saga, captivating the public and fueling their curiosity about the fate of the Nautilus. This is something anyone can learn when managing their own projects. If you want your idea to gain traction, you need to make it appealing to the right audience. What Wilkins' story teaches us is that the success of a venture often lies as much in its execution as in its ability to engage and involve people along the way. However, we cannot forget that this exposure also brought pressures. The greater the public interest, the higher the expectations for results. And with the whole world watching, every step, every failure, every advance was magnified. This shows us another important aspect. When you put a project in the spotlight, you need to be prepared to deal with criticism and demands. The pressure on Wilkins was immense, and he knew that failure would mean not only losing funding, but also disappointing millions of people. This constant tension between expectation and reality was something that defined the rest of the expedition. And as we will see next, the journey was about to get even more complicated with a series of mechanical failures that nearly jeopardized the entire mission. From the beginning, Wilkins' expedition faced technical challenges that, if not for the persistence of his team, would have prematurely ended the journey. The Nautilus, though modified for Arctic conditions, began to suffer mechanical failures that complicated the mission. One of the most critical problems was with the ice drills, which were supposed to allow the submarine to break through the thick layers of ice above it. However, these drills repeatedly failed, leaving the team in a difficult position without the ability to move freely under the ice. This shows us how even the most carefully planned solutions can fail when tested in real situations. And this lesson applies to all of us. In life, it's inevitable that at some point, our plans will encounter unexpected obstacles. The important thing is not to give up at the first sign of difficulty. The problems with the Nautilus were not limited to just the drills. The submarine, designed to withstand long periods submerged under the ice, began to suffer malfunctions in critical systems, such as propulsion and steering control. These failures forced the crew to make constant repairs, often in extremely adverse conditions. Imagine being in the middle of the Arctic, inside a submarine with freezing temperatures, while trying to fix a machine that had never been tested in such extreme conditions. The tension was palpable, and the crew's frustration grew with each new failure. However, this also teaches us something important: the ability to adapt in the midst of crisis. Just as the Nautilus crew had to, you might find yourself in a situation where you need to quickly improvise solutions, learning to be resilient in the face of problems that arise without warning. The impact of these mechanical failures went beyond the technical aspect. They began to affect the morale of the crew, who, exhausted and discouraged, began to question whether the mission was worth the effort. This is a crucial point that we often overlook when facing challenges: the psychological impact. When everything seems to be going wrong, maintaining confidence and motivation is essential, but also incredibly difficult. Wilkins, as a leader, had to deal not only with technical problems, but also with the crew's demoralization. This is something that any leader, whether in an expedition or a work project, needs to learn to manage. The ability to keep morale high, even when the outcomes are uncertain, is an essential skill. And this is where the crucial role of emotional leadership and mutual support in times of crisis comes into play. Each new repair meant more time lost, more risks, and more uncertainty. The expedition, which was already complex by nature, began to drag, and the North Pole, which once seemed so close, became increasingly distant. With each mechanical failure, Wilkins' dream of reaching the pole seemed to crumble. And this leads us to an important reflection. There are moments when, no matter how hard we fight and strive, the results simply don't come as we expect. But it's at this point that perseverance becomes even more vital. Even in the face of so many failures, Wilkins and his team kept moving forward, showing that the true strength of a journey lies not in how many obstacles we face, but in how we respond to them. They knew that the Arctic conditions would become even more dangerous as they continued. With the Nautilus already weakened by mechanical failures and the crew's morale declining, the expedition entered a new level of difficulty. As if the Arctic conditions weren't challenging enough, they grew increasingly brutal. The crew faced extreme cold, confined in a tight space, without any contact with the outside world. And as if that weren't enough, conditions inside the submarine began to deteriorate. The air, initially controlled by systems meant to filter oxygen, became increasingly toxic. Imagine being in an environment where the very air you breathe becomes your enemy. This situation is a powerful reminder of how, in extreme environments, things we take for granted like air and warmth, can turn into deadly challenges. Just like in life, we are often confronted by invisible problems that, if not managed, can slowly suffocate us. The cramped space in the submarine also contributed to rising tension among the crew. When we're under extreme stress, like they were, every little detail can become a source of irritation. Living in such a hostile environment, combined with the precarious conditions, pushed everyone to the edge. Wilkins knew that as a leader, he had to stay calm and find ways to unite the team instead of letting the environment wear them down. Here lies an important lesson for everyone. In times of great pressure, a sense of purpose and unity is essential. If you've ever been in a situation where the environment around you seemed to be working against you, whether at work or at home, you know that maintaining harmony is crucial to withstanding the pressure. Despite everything, Wilkins insisted on moving forward, leading the Nautilus to reach a historic milestone. They went further under the ice than any other expedition had ever done. It was an impressive feat, considering the adverse conditions. But, as with many challenges we face in life, reaching a milestone doesn't always mean achieving the final goal. Wilkins knew they were still far from the North Pole, and each kilometer they advanced brought new dangers. The temperature inside the submarine began to drop to alarming levels, and the team had to face the fact that their equipment simply wasn't prepared to withstand the relentless forces of nature. This serves as a powerful metaphor for those moments when, even after giving our best, we realize that the circumstances are beyond our control. As time went on, conditions became unsustainable. The cold, the lack of air, and the mechanical problems forced Wilkins to make a tough decision. He knew that continuing would be suicidal, but turning back meant admitting that the mission had failed. It's the kind of dilemma many of us face in our own projects and goals. When to give up, when to realize that it's no longer safe to keep going. Wilkins, with the safety of his crew in mind, decided it was time to reconsider his plans. But even in this difficult decision, there was a lesson. Sometimes, retreating isn't a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. And the crew, despite their disappointment, knew there was one more challenge to face before heading home: the final repairs to the Nautilus, and one last attempt before deciding the expedition's fate. After months of relentless challenges, Sir Hubert Wilkins and his crew found themselves at a critical point. The mechanical failures, the growing tension, and the toxic conditions inside the Nautilus had become unbearable. Wilkins, who had already risked everything by taking the submarine further than anyone had ever gone under the Arctic ice, knew that the crew was at their limit. However, as a determined leader, he also knew he couldn't simply abandon the dream without trying one last time. The decision to make a final effort resonates deeply with anyone who has ever been in a difficult situation. There are moments when, despite everything being against us, we still feel the need to try one more time, because the possibility of success, no matter how small, can change everything. With this spirit of determination, Wilkins and his crew prepared for one final attempt to move closer to the North Pole. But before they could execute this plan, a series of new problems arose. One of the most serious was the loss of the diving rudder, a vital piece for underwater navigation. Without this tool, the Nautilus could not move with the necessary precision, especially in the treacherous Arctic conditions. Additionally, suspicions of sabotage surfaced, increasing the tension among the crew. This scenario is a powerful reminder of how, when we are under intense pressure, even the people around us can seem like adversaries. A lack of trust in moments of crisis can turn an already difficult situation into something unsustainable. And so, after months of battling the forces of nature, technological failures, and even the possibility of sabotage, Wilkins reached the inevitable conclusion: they needed to retreat. It was September 1931, and the team had already gone further than anyone had ever imagined, but the North Pole still remained out of reach. Deciding to abandon the original goal was one of the toughest decisions of his career. However, he knew that there comes a point where continuing to push forward would be fatal for everyone on board. This decision teaches us something fundamental. Sometimes, True success isn't in reaching exactly what we planned, but in knowing when to step back to preserve what we've already achieved. Sometimes, a strategic retreat is the best choice we can make. After the decision to retreat, the fate of the Nautilus was sealed. The submarine, which had been the stage for one of the boldest expeditions of the century, was abandoned and later sunk off the coast of Norway. Thus ended the journey of the Nautilus, a symbol of innovation, courage, and the unforgiving reality of natural forces. Wilkins, however, was not defeated. He returned with a new understanding of the Arctic's challenges and what would be required for a future successful expedition. His story reminds us that even when plans don't unfold as we expected, the lessons we learn along the way can be more valuable than the final destination. But for now, the Arctic ice had won this battle, leaving an indelible mark on Wilkins and his crew. Now that you've uncovered the true story of the Nautilus and everything that happened during this epic expedition, the question remains, what would you do in Wilkins' place? How would you handle so many challenges and unexpected twists? The truth is, life is full of obstacles, and the story of the Nautilus teaches us that even when plans seem to fail, the lessons we take from them can be more valuable than the destination itself. So, how about starting to apply this learning to your own journey? Whether in your personal projects at work or in your most ambitious dreams, remember that each step, each attempt, even those that seem like failures, can bring you closer to success. And you, are you ready to face the challenges that may come your way? If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to keep learning from stories like this. There are many hidden lessons in extraordinary adventures, and I want to help you uncover each one. Let's go together on this journey of discovery.